As I record this right now, it has been less than 1 week since the debut of the Star Wars Episode 9 teaser trailer, and I am ecstatic, like a lot of fans out there are. I'm gonna right now take a deep dive into the trailer, all the things that I noticed. We're gonna break it down scene by scene. This is for Star Wars nerds. I know there's a lot of you out there watching this right now, but for everybody else, there's a lot to learn here too. Just with what we can expect with this unbelievably highly anticipated film that is going to be coming out this Christmas. Little bit of a warning, there are some spoilers just in terms of the other Star Wars movies, so if you haven't seen them all the way up through Episode 8, The Last Jedi, you might not want to watch this, but for everybody else, you're gonna want to watch this. Let's dig in. So the first thing you're going to notice in this trailer is the audio, the breathing. This, of course, breathing in the Star Wars saga is just one of those iconic kind of things. You know, the Darth Vader breathing, and we also had the Force Awakens trailer opened with Finn kind of out of breath as he was running around. Here we have Rey. We hear Rey's breathing, but I love how they kind of have Rey pull it together. She starts kind of a more controlled breathing by the time we see her. This is kind of reminiscent to me of Luke in Return of the Jedi, who had kind of honed in all of his powers and became the Master Jedi, basically, by that film. That's what I think is kind of going on here with Rey.
We've passed on all we know.
The first voiceover is Luke. We've passed on all we know. We've. Plural. Is he speaking for all the Jedi here and not just himself? That's an interesting point. We'll get back to that later.
1,000 generations live in you now.
He also says 1,000 generations live in you now. This confirms that Mark Hamill will reprise his role as Luke in this film. Most obviously, we would think as a Force ghost, but who knows? Next, we get a shot of the lightsaber. The framing of this shot is really a traditional kind of a Western showdown shot. You would see this a lot like in a gunslinger, like a duel is about to happen, which of course we know is about to happen here with Kylo Ren. But what makes this interesting is that the framing was also used with Han Solo in the original Star Wars films in the deleted scenes where he meets Jabba the Hutt, and also in the recent Solo movie. With all the mystery that's surrounding Rey's heritage, is this a subtle reference to the idea that she may be related to Han, therefore also related to Kylo Ren?
But this is your fight.
The first text that we get in the trailer says, "Every generation has a legend." This is actually the same wording used in the Phantom Menace trailer back for Episode 1 in 1999. Here we get a shot of the landscape. We're on a desert planet, obviously, but are we on one that we already know, like Tatooine or Jakku? The ship that goes by, we assume it's Kylo Ren's silencer from The Last Jedi, although there are a few cosmetic tweaks, but we can safely assume that this is Kylo. We then get the confirmation that the lightsaber that Rey has is indeed Luke Skywalker's original blue lightsaber, the same one that was ripped in half during The Last Jedi. Clearly, Rey has repaired this legendary saber, and the whole idea of mending or putting things back together is a theme that really jumped out at me in this trailer, and it's showcased heavily, as I'll point out as we go along. I just love this shot. It's very Darth Vader-esque. We see into the cockpit of the silencer. You'll notice that the black gloves and even the blurred out lights in the background evoke Darth Vader himself, with the lights sort of looking like Vader's iconic chest plate. Another fun fact, this little showdown itself seems to be an homage to the famous crop duster scene in the classic Alfred Hitchcock film North by Northwest. Minus the cool flip at the end. This shot, I've got nothing. Here's a planet I don't seem to know or recognize. We then see Kylo Ren stab someone with the short part of his badass lightsaber, but it's incredibly hard to tell who he's attacking here or where he is. Some I've heard have speculated that this could be one of the Knights of Ren, the group that J.J. Abrams introduced in The Force Awakens, but that was left out completely of The Last Jedi. J.J. Abrams will surely bring them back, I would think, or at least explain their disappearance, if indeed that's who these people are. We then see Kylo Ren's mask being mended back together. And there's that word again, mend. As we see now that both Rey and Kylo have literally picked up the pieces of their past and are putting things back together. Most interesting here to me, though, is that if you look closely, those hairy hands are not Kylo's. So who exactly is repairing Kylo's mask? We get our first look at Finn. He's holding Rey's old staff. We have Poe Dameron in the background. Once again, the planet terrain looks a bit familiar. I'm thinking we're on Tatooine. Here we get our first look at BB-8 and his new sidekick droid that we know is named Dio from his introduction at the recent Star Wars panel. And coolest of all, Lando is back. He seems to be wearing the exact same clothes that young Lando wore in the recent Solo movie, so there's that. This is followed by some sort of explosive chase past what appears to be moisture farms, and it looks a lot like the earlier scenes with Rey. So putting those two things together, it leads me to believe that we're indeed going to be on Tatooine, since we know that moisture farming is sort of Tatooine's thing from the original Star Wars film. This also seems reminiscent of the battle that takes place over the Sarlacc pit outside of Jabba's stronghold in Return of the Jedi. I love this shot. You may remember that this is the medal that Princess Leia gives to Han and Luke at the end of the original Star Wars. These appear to be Leia's hands, and because she marries Han, I'm guessing that this is actually Han's medal.
We'll always be with you.
Now, we know that Leia is set to not only appear in Episode 9, but she's going to have a major role, despite the fact that Carrie Fisher passed away before Episode 9 began filming. J.J. Abrams has reportedly created quite a role for her out of unused footage from The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. We see that she shares another emotional embrace with Rey, just as she did at the end of The Force Awakens after Han's death. Important here also is that Luke's voiceover once again is plural. We'll always be with you, hinting that Luke may not be the only Force ghost that we'll see. As J.J. Abrams confirmed at the Star Wars panel, this adventure will feature all of our heroes together in one place, so it's no surprise we see them all together here. But what may come as a surprise is that they appear to be traveling towards the wreckage of the old Death Star. What are they looking for? What planet is this? We know that the first Death Star exploded over Yavin 4, and the second one in Return of the Jedi exploded over the moon of Endor, both of which are forest planets, but this doesn't seem like either of those. What business do our heroes have in returning to this wreckage? We shall see.
No one's ever really gone.
Here Luke says something key. No one's ever really gone. It's such a deep, such a great line. It's sort of implying to Rey that Luke and the other fallen Jedi will always be with her, in spirit anyways. But this line actually means way more than this, because we've actually heard Luke speak these same words before, in his final scene with Leia at the end of The Last Jedi.
I held out hope for so long, but I know my son's gone.
No one's ever really gone.
In that scene, he was talking about Kylo Ren, and the context was that Luke is telling Leia that Kylo is redeemable. Of course, there's another way to take this line based on what the trailer reveals next.
No one's ever really gone.
That sinister, familiar laugh of none other than Emperor Palpatine. With Snoke now dead and Kylo seemingly stuck bouncing back and forth between the light and dark sides of the Force, Episode 9 gets a clear villain, and it's the same villain that set all 9 of these episodes into motion in the first place. Yes, Episode 9 has their bad guy, but how could Emperor Palpatine be alive? Does it have something to do with his little chat with Anakin about Darth Plagueis?
Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? He had such a knowledge of the dark side, he could even keep the ones he cared about from dying.
He could actually save people from death.
The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
It would finally have this scene make sense after all these years and would be a cool way to tie Episode 9 in with Episode 1. But of course, who knows what J.J. Abrams has up his sleeve. The last and maybe biggest mystery given to us by this new teaser trailer is the title itself, The Rise of Skywalker. It can mean so many things. Is this referencing Luke, Leia, Anakin? Will Rey be revealed to be a Skywalker after all? Does it refer to a new Skywalker unbeknownst to audiences? Or could the term Skywalker be a new title bestowed upon a group of people, like Jedi? So unfortunately, we're not going to have a lot of answers on any of this stuff for quite a while. Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, doesn't open until Christmas time. So until then, we're just going to have to kind of deal with the scraps that they give us and scour every last detail, kind of like I just did with this first teaser trailer. I can tell you this much, if there's one person that I trust to kind of safely land this ship, of this saga that has been going on, this 42 years in the making cinematic saga that is Star Wars, if there's anybody at all that I trust to land it, it is J.J. Abrams. I can't wait for Christmas.